Welcome to the Natural Parents Podcast, where we will cover all things faith, health, family, and wealth through a biblical perspective of putting things in life that matter most back into order. We're reminded of Matthew 6:33, where Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things shall be added to you." Join us each week as we focus on what truly matters most in this life and passing those values on to the next generation. This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abbie Hukin.
Welcome back, guys. Excited to dive deeper this week on all things the natural parents. Actually, I really want to talk about that a lot. What in the heck is the natural parents? Why do we call this thing the natural parents? Are we allowed to take showers on a regular basis if we say we're natural or crunchy?
Only in the creek.
Bars of soap or no?
No.
Okay.
Leaves.
All right. So I feel like there's sometimes a little bit of a connotation there that if I'm more naturally inclined, we got to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Do you and I, do we get this right? Quote unquote, all the time, 100% of the time? Are we super crunchy, all natural?
A lot of the time, yes. I do own Lysol wipes in my camper because sometimes people will track in chicken poop, and I'm just gonna get that with a Lysol wipe. I'm not gonna,
or at least
do
you
things.
hope it's chicken poop.
Yeah, you never know what it is, really. I mean, with your kids and the funny farm, you never know what it is. But no, there are things that we do that we are natural, probably, I would say 95% of the time, because things are just habit and second nature. I'm not afraid to use OxyClean spray on a really stubborn stain of a favorite t-shirt of the kids' or something, but you do it where you can. You're natural where you can be, but that doesn't mean that.
Well, I think it's been a slow grow to 90%, 95%.
I think if you try to do it,
started.
Mm-hmm. I think if you try to do it all at once, it's just way too overwhelming, for sure.
Well, and I hope, so starting this podcast episode off, I hope you guys find some solace in that you don't have to have it all figured out, mm-hmm. but we do want to start making those daily little incremental changes mm-hmm. to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Right? So, actually, when we very first started, I would say the first thing we probably started to clean up was our diet.
For sure. Yeah.
It's still not perfect, right? We are on the go and live a lot, but we're doing a lot of things in our life to get that right. But we always talked about the 80% rule. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things in life. There's the 80-20 rule, all this kind of stuff. But we just established this as, hey, 80% of the time, can we eat clean? Can we not eat out? Can we not do,
mm-hmm.
the restaurants and that kind of stuff? Can we do that 80% of our meals, 8 out of 10? That actually, to me, for some, might seem daunting. But to me, it seems like, oh, that's doable.
Yeah, and I'm like, even that, I'm not trying to say that but I think that we do a really good job at that. But I'm not about to miss out on a filet and spinach artichoke dip at a favorite restaurant.
Right.
So
we're gonna on date night. That's where we're going.
A not grass-fed filet.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna eat it.
Right, and so that's kind of where maybe that 80% rule in our life has started mm-hmm. to taper. But we can do that in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. Whether it's household cleaning products or the biggest one. And I love your take on this. You always talk about quote unquote body burden, like mm-hmm. how burdensome is our daily routine.
Yeah.
We hear about all the time. Women, now even men, there's products and all this kind of stuff. We leave the house and there's so much toxic stuff in and
mm-hmm.
on our bodies. What's one thing we can start to carve out of that? But I think the better question of how relevant this topic is like, where does someone start? If someone just got sent this Natural Parents podcast and they're driving in their car for the next 15 minutes, where do they start? How do they find out what to start doing to live a more natural, more clean lifestyle?
I feel like there's a couple different ways. For one, we have the Facebook group, the Natural Parents Co. That is a good place because it's a community of people who are all in similar boats. But it also, I have lists on there of swaps that you can do. So if you're, say you run out of your shower cleaner and you're like, okay, it really does burn my lungs whenever I'm cleaning the shower. I should probably switch to something that's a little bit better. You can just hop on there and search bathroom cleaner and things like that. So there's definitely resources that we have tried to be diligent about and updating. But you also can just learn what chemicals are bad. What do I need to be looking at in an ingredient list, whether it's cleaning supplies, sunscreen, it's food, whatever that is, and educating yourself there. And then having a better eye and just know if you make a better choice, I hope you don't come for me for this, but Mrs. Myers is not clean. Don't let the little old lady fool you. But if you get that versus scrubbing bubbles and you go for Mrs. Myers, that is definitely going to be better than the scrubbing bubbles. So always just do the best with the information that you have right then. Don't let it overwhelm you to where you don't do anything and you go back to buying scrubbing bubbles for your shower. You definitely can just learn as you go and don't expect yourself to be perfect right off the bat.
Yeah. So I think you brought up this topic, and I actually had a thought on this to ask you, like, do you feel like sometimes there's like shame or overwhelm, or like I always talk to you about like mom shame, like for some of the ladies listening, like of like, well, I do use scrubbing bubbles, or whatever.
And
like, and I know you said, like,
yeah.
I'm not coming at you about that, but like, so again, where were you at when you started your journey? Like, you wanted to, like, you didn't set out one day, wake up and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be a crunchy mom today. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think it was just gradual whenever you were in chiropractic school and just started like learning about the body in general and just honestly treating your body better. And then, obviously being in the chiropractic world, you are connected with a lot of people. Yeah, we're weirdos, and you are just connected with people who live natural. And so then it's like, well, one person shares one thing and you're, oh, really? And for mine, it was crunchy makeup, and I had heard about that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what is the makeup that I put on? And it's just that one thing that then gets you to thinking about every single other thing. And so, it's amazing whenever you take a step back and you're like, how many chemicals did I just put on my body to increase that body burning before I even walked out the door?
Right. Well, and I would say, and like mine, for me, it was kind of an awakening, a moment. And I feel like people come to that. Certain things happen. It could be a health concern. It could be just you hear a podcast and you're like, wait, what's up with that? I do that, or is that wrong of me to do it that way? I hope you're okay with me sharing this, but I remember I was in chiropractic school in like trimester 1. There's a guy, we call him Rev Roy. It's Dr. Hillgartner. He comes in, he starts like teaching, and we call him Rev Roy because he would sometimes preach instead of teach, but he would preach like natural health, not in a dogmatic way, but it was just like, hey, there's something to be said here for the fact that our bodies were made to be healthy, and we don't need these outside in approaches to health. Health doesn't come from a bottle. It doesn't come from a pill or a spoonful of medicine. Health comes from within. And so that started to rack my brain. And actually, I think the thing that really, really started us down this journey, at least for me, this is what sticks out as a core memory, was I came home from that course where somehow, sitting in class, I looked up on my iPad. I was on the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation website. And in that class, he had talked about something about the effects of like progesterone therapy causing or contributing to breast cancer. And I was like, well, that's like, again, a lot of stuff. I hear things and I'm like, first thing I'm gonna do is look that up.
You're a debater.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know, is there validity to that statement? And so I remember looking this up, and I wound up on Susan G. Komen's website, and it says that long-term, birth control therapy can actually, it said slight increase in prevalence of breast cancer. And so I thought of that, and I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, there is a slight increase in how many women are being put on birth control medication. I mean, when did you start? How old were you?
Probably 16.
Yeah, so like our teenagers, I've heard 12, 13, 14-year-old females being, prescribed this as a good idea. And I'm like, wait a second, like, slight increase, what's that number? Like, if I tell you slight, what do you think? Like, and me, to my thoughts, I was like a couple percent. Well, actually, I looked it up, found the research article. It was a 30% increase in likelihood. Like, 30%? 3 out of 10, like, that is a significant number. And so I came home and I was like, hey, I don't think you should take birth control. And you're like, but do we want to have kids yet? It's like we were brand new married. I mean, we got married and started chiropractic school, and I'm maybe 3 weeks in, and I'm bringing this stuff home to you, right? And you're like, hold on, wait, what's up with that? And I think that genuinely for me was where I started down, for lack of a better term, the rabbit hole of like all things natural health, because I was like, wait, what are these pills? What's in a pill? Like, why would we not take that? And so, yeah, it's from a medication standpoint, and there is a time and a place. We talk about that all of the time. It's just that our bodies were created to be healthy, and we want to do everything, whether it's, physically or chemically, emotionally, in a more naturally inclined way. For me, everything comes back to Scripture, and that's why faith, health, family, and wealth, faith is first. But I heard a doctor present this one time, and it really stuck with me. But like in the Lord's Prayer, and it's interesting because we were just talking about the Lord's or the model prayer last night in church, but it talks about, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And I heard a doctor say this. He's like, do you think that there's medications in heaven? I was like, no. And so we're saying, Lord of the entire universe, like your kingdom come down to us, like your will be done through there. I don't think unnatural products are God's design for health. And so what can we do? What little steps can we do each and every day to just move our families, our kids, and the next generation a little bit closer to a more natural, holistic, healthy way of living, right? Or as our kids like to say, organic.
Organic. Are you organic?
Is them organic? Are they organic, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah. And so with that, I even think that just like teaching our kids just what to look for, what to pay attention to. Our kids know the word organic. They kind of know what that means. But they also know like food dyes. And so I don't ever want to instill fear around it, but I do want to instill education. And I think that there is a fine line, and it is very tiptoe, of that line. But I think that whenever you educate your kids and empower them to have the knowledge of what food could contain and what other options would contain and what best serves your body and treating your body like a temple, I think that that's where the key is to having them grow up with healthy relationships with food, but also being mindful of what they put in and around and on their body. Yeah, and something you say all the time to our kids that I love is, Mom, can I have this? Right? And it's like a sucker full of dyes and sugar and not good stuff. And you say, no, baby, not today, not that. Why? Right? All kids ask why. It just doesn't serve our bodies. Maybe that just doesn't serve our bodies. Like, I love that so much. And if we can start to empower our kids on a health discussion standpoint, what does and does not serve their bodies, wow, will they be not only educated, but my favorite word to replace that with is empowered. Like, they will be empowered to make the right choices for their health. And I mean, I'm not above swapping it out, paying them for their bad candy. So
what is parenting if not bribery?
Yeah. I mean, whether that's with a healthy sucker or money, whatever it takes.
Yeah, we've done that before. We'll switch it out.
Pay for it now or pay for it later with the food diet attitude and bellyache for sure.
Absolutely. So, for sure. The whole point of this, guys, is just to deepen the conversation. So we hope you're finding value in these conversations. Let us know. Shoot us a message. Join our Facebook group, the Natural Parents Co. on Facebook. It's a group. It's a like-minded place. We'd love to get your input, what you'd like to hear from us next. We're just excited to be able to share in a community with like-minded parents that just want to do things a little differently.
From the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you know and leave a review. By doing so, we're able to grow this community of amazing people just like you and raise a generation of children that know God and do His will on earth. We'll see you next time.